Hello everyone, I'm Brian Croy-Dragon and welcome to my birthday video. I'm 29 today. Incredible. Of course I've been told I look 19, so there you go. I got some good genes. Oh, hold on. My wishes. Dungeons. Let's see here. So I am planning to do a short birthday stream later on Twitch. Short because, well, I do have Dungeons and Dragons tonight. Holding that thought. Just getting lunch done. I cannot get things done with these guys around, can I? I mean, sure, it might be cold one time. I get around to eating it. I mean, it's 10:35, I'll be eating at 12. But at least it won't be frozen and it will be sufficiently cooled down. Hey. So besides Wattpad and Linkit, yesterday I joined a new such site, Web Novel. Excuse me, 1 second. Yes, I've joined a third. I've already transferred Dive into the Bygone to Web Novel, but it'll take a while for me to get the rest over. I mean, I'm hoping to be published, so... Geez, The Crown Chevalier has been being edited by my aunt since I was, what, 20? 22? 9 to 7 years at least. And I don't know if she's still editing or... if she's not heard back from that publisher friend of hers. But in the meantime, I'm working on some stories. I got 2 serializing on Wattpad. North from Aether, which is a part of the Aether tetralogy. Whatever the word is. And the other is the Arcane Mr. O'Connor, which is a part of the Carchemish series, which is meant to pay homage to the shows of my childhood. So what am I going to be doing for my birthday stream? Oh, I don't know. Probably a few games. Of course, I'm hardly the most popular of streamers, so I don't think I'll get many people. Oh, calamari. Plans change for stories. I'm not exactly tremendously sometimes, but sometimes with just characters. And this has to do with the comic book fantasy casting I sometimes employ. The character of Malachi Osborne. Initially, I physically thought of him as looking like Spencer Tracy, but sounding like William Shatner. But then I realized just have him be William Shatner in both appearance and voice. Well, he's William Shatner in appearance for the most part. The character's got a reptile-like skin disorder, so there you go. Uh, Another of the villains, also a part of the Bannerets of the Annulus Band of Canada, our stand-in for the KKK, is the villain Graydon Jasper. And I was thinking, initially, physically Tyler Main, vocally Don Franks, but I just said, hey, just have it be Don Franks. Both physically and vocally. And then we get to Campbell Ward, a member of the Moloch cult. And he's well, how do I describe him? I think of him as like a combination of Baron von Strucker, and the 1960s version of Mr. Freeze, you know, from the TV show. I mean, yeah, that's basically where that name was first used, but clarification is in order. And of course he has a bit of this prune face like look to him, so he's blue, bald, and has this incredibly wrinkled face. Oh, and also he's a snake person in reality. But it got into the fantasy casting I was doing. Modeling, physically he was just supposed to be Campbell Lane. And vocally he was supposed to be Eric Bauza, but then I figured just have him be Campbell Lane both physically and vocally. Why? Oh, there's a good reason, and that's because Campbell Lane was actually the voice of Rampage in Beast Wars, and Dr. X on Action Man, both shows from my childhood, so yeah. Besides being named after the man, he's a terrific actor. I'm sorry that he's gone, but that's the way of all flesh. Yeah, so I'm really thinking of incorporating some lines some of Rampage's lines, some of Dr. X's lines. I mean, well, Action Man's been off the air for what, 20 years? He was the initial voice of Dr. X before he succeeded in stealing himself a new body. After which Michael Kops took over, even though that was not the voice of the guy. That was not the voice of the character Brandon Kane before. He was before Dr. X took over his body. Actually, who was it? Okay, Tyler Labine was the voice of Brandon Kane. So yeah, isn't that something that Hunk from Voltron Legendary Defender or whatever that reboot is called. Yeah, Voltron Legendary Defender. He was this rival athlete of Action Man who ended up going in for Dr. X's offer of nanotech enhancements and being turned into a monster because of it. Oh god, it's been so long. I watched the first episode again recently, and I should get to watching the rest of the series. I mean, of course, I want to give Ward some of rampages in Dr. X's line, so I do plan to do my research. Did Darkseid turn off? It was never on to begin with, okay. So what can I say about Action Man? I mean, sure, the animation hasn't aged great, but compared to something like the first Toy Story movie, compared to something like the first Toy Story movie, it looks great. Action Man was, of course, the show I'm specifically talking about was made to compete with Max Steel, which lasted longer. But it's quite a bit darker than I remember. I mean, Dr. X is a sufficiently creepy villain. As Campbell Lane voices him. And I think that's really the big deal. If it wasn't for Campbell Lane's voice performance, and probably later Michael Copps's, the character wouldn't be as good a character. Yeah. As for Malachi Osborne, I'm definitely gonna give him some other William Shatner lines. I'm thinking of giving him like catchphrase, "It's that weird or what?" And of course, his son James Osborne is probably gonna also be William Shatner-esque. I mean, yeah, of course he is. William Shatner for both of them. So it might be a shared catchphrase between father and son. They might say, "Is that weird or what?" Obviously a reference to William Shatner's Weird or What, a show which I watched. Typically wasn't something I considered scary. I mean, it was a bit like Mystery Hunters, Truth or Scare. Monster Quest. Monsters and Mysteries in America. But as was the case with those shows, it varied from episode to episode, and sometimes within episodes. Good lord, I think Weird or What covered like 3 things per episode, of course with a theme. And one of the episodes, one of the 3 things that was covered was a haunted painting that I'm not going to tell you the name of. I don't want you looking it up. I don't want to give you nightmares the same way I had nightmares. Well, it wasn't exactly nightmares, it was more the case of just the image of that thing ingrained in my mind. I had to play the song Hallelujah in my mind just to get sleep. Like to banish that thing from my head. And Graydon Jasper, he's also going to get some Don Franks esque lines. Lines from his other roles, like when Frank Welker wasn't available, he'd provide the voice of Dr. Claw. So that's just one example. In contrast to Dr. Claw, who's a comically serious villain in a less than serious show, the Carchemish series definitely plays things seriously. And excuse me while I get the charger. The Carchemish series is of course mine to write, so I can have it be as serious as I want it to be. And I can have the villains look however I want them to. Of course, one of my readers has put forth a character, and I'm fine with it. A villain and her organization, a James Bond-esque villain based off of Blofeld. And of course, I've not read any of the books that Blofeld appears in. I've not seen any of the movies that Blofeld appears in. I prefer Le Chiffre. Not great at French, so forgive me. I mean, I was French exempt after all. Or, the villains from, or have her base off. She's basically a female Blofeld, but yeah, as I said, I like. I've read Casino Royale. I've seen the film adaptation with Daniel Craig. I've seen The Living Daylights. I've seen Die Another Day. Personally, I'd like it to be more a case of her being modeled after the villains I'm familiar with. But okay, if someone puts forth a suggestion, then and you deem to use it, then you have to. Oh, I don't know. Should talk to him about that, about her being less Blofeld and more James Bond villain I'm familiar with, and even then with that she is completely standing out. She and her organization are completely standing out. The villains, the mundane villains are typically not something James Bond-esque for Carchemish. As the writer, as the author of the series, I know what I want. Yeah, the mundane villains, the human villains, are actually I got the mundane and the non-mundane villains basically, and the mundane villains are what they sound as. The closest thing to super villains are mad scientists, and then the rest of the villains are basically film noir and things you could come across in real life. But at the end of the day, they're quite normal. I mean, green skin aside, which comes from the 1967 Spider-Man series. A lot of the original villains from season 2 onward had green skin, and even Mysterio ended up having green skin when they had to get around the fact that they didn't have the rights to his appearance. They had the rights to the name and the character, but not how he appeared, so he looks like a green skinned Woody Allen. So there's that, and there's also a bit of a, a Dick Tracy thing about some of their appearance. Is the villains of Dick Tracy were typically abnormal looking in some way. I mentioned Prune Face, of course. Then of course we had someone like Flat Top. Little Face, LeBrow. And as for colors, uh, drawing from Action Man, villains typically wore green, purple, and blue. So I'm trying to those three colors, so I'm really trying to give a combination, get a combination down. And well, not a show from my childhood, but still a Canadian series, which is one of like magnum opuses of Nelvana. You have Detention Air using a red motif for the heroes and a blue motif for the villains. You have, of course, you have the protagonist Henry Prana and his love interest Catherine Sharp, who are both redheads, and Henry is predominantly dressed in red, and some of Catherine's bathing suit is actually red and orange, so there you go. And she does dress in blue, but it's not in the, it's not with the red blue blue green purple combination. And Detention Air actually played with the motif they had going on. I mean, as I said, the heroes had a red motif and villains had a blue motif, typically. And the character of Biffy Goldstein, you know, he looks like your stereotypical bully, and he's even dressed. He's wearing blue. There's not any red on him, on his attire. He's actually one of the heroes, and something interesting to note about the show is that you begin with stereotypes only for the characters to eventually turn out to not be those at all. It's a nice, interesting change. But yeah, as I said, protagonist Li Ping's love interest Tina Cree actually wore both red and blue. Uh, Red vest, blue skirt, you get the idea. And it's actually had to do with her neutrality initially, her initial neutrality. So instead of wearing one color or the other, or even a combination like purple, she wore both red and blue. Uh, Unless telling the audience that she's neutral initially. And yeah, Catherine's not exactly neutral, but she does have the red blue thing going on. I mean, as long as I don't. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much keeping the red, blue, yellow colors. Red, blue, yellow, red, blue, green, purple and colors for the villains. But on the other hand, I've got a few factions going on. I have the bannerets of the Annulus Band of Canada, as I said, KKK based. But based on the first KKK, with their homemade masks and things. So not any of that wearing white thing. In fact, a picture I saw of arrested Klansmen from that area looked like they were wearing burlap sacks on their heads, so that's an idea. Uh, yeah, the Moloch cult, not really any color. Uh, it's very much, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I got these two factions, but the most I've got is, well, how do I put this? It's a very Lovecraftian group. Uh, I mean, Karkemish is the main, and I view him as the main villain of the story, but his rival for that position is actually in the character of Moloch. This alien capable of taking on this Owlman form, and I'm not sure which form is the real one. It's either this grinning man looking thing that he first appears as, or it's the Owlman form that he will appear as. I don't have any problem with spoiling my own story. In fact, I've been talking about Moloch for years, and I've made no secret that Moloch is this Owlman looking thing. Him having this grinning man type form only came about like this year. And I'm going to be honest, it's not a great form. Yeah, there's clearly something off about his grinning man form. So it's not like he can easily just, you know, blend in with society. And he looks like he's wearing a suit made out of tin foil, so, or whatever that, tin foil, aluminum, what did I have written down? I'm not sure if I remember. I'm pretty sure it was either black or blue in color. Excuse me. Hey, Alex. I mean, of course, the Men in Black are the henchmen of the Moloch cult. One of the three is, well, now dead. Carchemish killed him in the first story, Resurrection. And that was an idea I had for the character a long time. That one of his victims be someone who does not show emotion, someone very monotone, and it's the realization that he's going to be killed by Carchemish that really causes emotion to show up upon his countenance. And yeah, that's something I had as an idea for a while. Carchemish is this wyvern resurrected by the souls of those who died in a battle of one of the Fenian raids. Just referred to as the raids in the series, so it's a bit of a ambiguity, but yeah, I'm just saying it's the Fenian raids. And so Carchemish is possessed, and he's not exactly normal. His skin is metal, which hasn't been established yet, but I'm putting it down now. Skin of metal, probably iron or bronze. And well, it's probably time I talk about his flesh. It's you know, like the stuff beneath the skin. It's well, it's more like plant matter than something of a animal or a human. You get the idea. It's not like what's beneath our skin. Yes, there's a skeleton beneath it, but the tissue is more like a plant matter. And does it sound weird? Yes. Is it supposed to? Also, yes. Not sure about giving the cult, the Moloch cult, their own colors. I mean, the Men in Black, that pretty much says what they're supposed to be wearing. Them and their younger counterparts, which fit in with the black-eyed children thing. So yeah, I'm getting scary with this, but yeah, one of the shows of my childhood was Tales from the Crypt Keeper, so with that being a horror series for kids, and let's face it, there was some pretty nightmarish things. There still is some pretty nightmarish things in family entertainment. So it's not really something that's out of the ordinary. Another faction of villains is the National Unity Party, which is of course Canada's Nazi party. Yeah, that party's banned, but You know, it's weird when one far right group gets banned and we've got and others don't get banned. It's just so weird, like across the world. But let's not talk about politics. They were called blue shirts, so definitely have them wearing blue shirts, and of course armbands showing their version of the swastika. So which was a well, the swastika was red on a white background and with everything around it being blue. So yeah, that's different. And then you have the Carson organization put down forward by my reader. Just saying now, I'm thinking of having them die horribly. But then again, I'm thinking of most of the villains dying horribly. So that's no surprise there. And we discussed it with my reader, and he said have them wearing green and purple, or was it green or blue? Whatever it was, it fits with the color theme. And then you have the unaffiliated villains, the freelancers, if you want to call it that. No, don't call it that. They're not mercenaries. They're just unaffiliated. God, Eddie. One of the unaffiliated villains is Eddie Fisk, which is... how do I put him? He's like the Kingpin meets the Riddler. Specifically, he's the Kingpin from the 1967 series and from the CGI series, Spider-Man, the new animated series, combined with you know, the 1960s series Riddler. So you know, Frank Gorshin, John Astin. And so I'm thinking of him just wearing green. It's modeled after Michael Clark Duncan. Physically, probably mentally, vocally also. And initially the Kingpin in the comics was just a very hands-on mob boss, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. And so I did my research in organized crime in Canada, so specifically in Ontario it's either Italian crime families or illegal motorcycle gangs, and I'm thinking that Fisk, well, obviously that name's not Italian, so he's probably more affiliated with the illegal motorcycle gang type thing. But while also having these he's got this Riddler, this Frank Gorshin / John Astin Riddler type personality, and these very, you know, the specific Kingpin type things I mentioned, thinking of his story, the story he'll appear in, being based off of the episode Kingpin from the 1967 series. So, yeah, and there's a, uh, how do I, he's going to be a bit of a glutton, which actually comes from the Kingpin's portrayal in Spider-Man, the new animated series, where he actually threatened one of his henchmen at the possibility of a French fry being missing from a bag of fast food. Put more whipped cream on his coffee land was necessary. And of course, Spider-Man joked that he actually ate his henchman. Spider-Man in that series was voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, and Michael Clark Duncan, of course, reprised his role from the movie Daredevil, and the character was portrayed as black as a result. And on the subject of the Kingpin, I've always associated him costuming wise with that white suit of his. It's probably because when I see him outside of that specific suit, it's I don't know. It's practically his trademark suit. So when I saw him in black, wearing a black suit in Spider-Man the animated series, and even later into the Spider-Verse, I said to myself, okay, it's a suit. It's a what difference does it make what color it is? Why change it? It's not an important thing to change. It's not like we're doing this in black and white or anything, and it's a color you wouldn't know what it is. I don't know. I'm probably just rambling nonsensically, but there you go. Excuse me. When it comes to my mental casting for characters, I think Canadian actors first. I mean, I'm Canadian, so there you go. I want to give it a very Canadian feeling. And Malachi Osborne, if the name's familiar, again, based on things on shows from my childhood, so obviously Spider-Man. But also Batman, so rather than a district attorney like like what Two-Face is, that's an American thing. Up here we have Crown Attorney, so Malachi Osborne is a assistant Crown Attorney. And an alleged robber. Uh, Malachi Osborne is really supposed to uh, how do I put this? He's really supposed to really hit the spotlight in uh, the Bannerets of the Nullis Band of Canada, unless I can think of a shorter title. I mean, God, I hope I can think of a shorter title. And the reason is that he's a public collaborator with the Annullis Band. Two other collaborators that I mentioned. Well, he actually appears in. He makes his first appearance in the Arcane Mr. O'Connor, and that has to do with the fact that Henry and Catherine on a date go to a reading of Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know, like every 16-year-old does. Like every 16-year-old kid does. Oh, but I would have if I was a... Oh god, if such things were going on back when I was 16, 13 years ago, oh, I would have. And the reason Malachi Osborne is there, well, he's inspired by obviously the Green Goblin and Two-Face. Specifically, he's inspired by the 1967 version of the Green Goblin, which is where the robber thing comes in, and he'll have an interest in the supernatural and magic, and not be particularly intelligent. But going back to Two-Face, when Two-Face first debuted in 1942, his debut issue showed him actually reading Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on the first page. So that's where the idea came from Malachi Osborne making his debut appearance. And the Arcane Mr. O'Connor, obviously a reference to the Mighty Thor. That's the animated series of the animated adaptation of the Marvel character from the 60s, meaning the show was going on in the 60s in 1966 as a part of the Marvel superheroes, and I'm pretty sure the Thor one aired on Thursday, of course. And it, obviously, the mysterious Mr. Hyde, it adapted the arc from the comics, where the character, the supervillain Mr. Hyde, debuted in. But of course, Henry and Catherine are quite smart. They recognize who O'Connor really is, and they recognize him as Kyle Johnson. He's of course a big fan of the book, so he ended up being the one to do the reading for doing the reading of the books. So there you go. He was discharged for stealing supplies from Dr. Alphonse Branna, Henry's father, and later Dr. Harold Bing, an expert in robotics. So he wants revenge against the two. So yeah, as you can see there, he's this Mr. Hyde based, specifically Mr. Hyde based Marvel Comics supervillain type character, but he's actually physically he's a bit more based on the literary character Mr. Hyde. So he's short. I give him Peter Dinklage's height. He looks younger. There's actually a resemblance between Johnson and O'Connor because in the original Robert Louis Stevenson novel, the protagonist, Gabriel John Utterson, a lawyer, Deacon's lawyer and friend, believes that Hyde might be Deacon's illegitimate son initially, and naturally there has to be a resemblance for such a thing. So there you go. But I also included the Phantom of the Opera looking face of Mr. Hyde, but rather than the Lon Chaney version, I went with the what's his name? Roman Carolla, the Andrew Lloyd Webber type thing. Because Roman Carolla, or whatever his name is, he's Canadian. I want to go Canadian first a lot of the time. Yeah, but that might change. The animated Phantom of the Opera from the 80s. I think that might have been. I think the production company, Emerald City Limited or whatever it was called, might have been Canadian. So I might go with the look of the original novel because that was faithfully reproduced, just as it was in the Lon Chaney film. I quite like that film. I watched it on Turner Classic Movies once, and it's very faithful, better than the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, or even the animated film from the 80s is better, and that's because it actually keeps to the original story. Oh yeah, forgot, but got my account migrated, so now I've got a cape. No, what am I doing? Please, what am I doing? So, the Aether tetralogy, that's very much fantasy based, and I was actually inspired by Avatar franchise, Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and their Asian aesthetic, and I thought, okay, let's change the Asian aesthetic and instead go for ancient world aesthetic. Uh, yeah, and a lot of the ancient world thing probably had to do with the fact that, um, well, with a fantasy world, a lot of the time it's based on medieval times. Definitely wanted to do something different. Aether is equivalent to Crete, a bit of Atlantis. The Cambyses Empire is, of course, the Persian Empire, and I mentioned the city-state of Minerva, of course, that's Athens, and it has its Delian League equivalent. There's also the Commodian Republic, obviously the Roman Republic, but uh, obviously not as powerful as it should be. It's a bit in a bit of a, the conquering republic is against the equally conquering empire, but Cambyses Empire is basically the lesser evil. Uh, yeah, it's, I know, Republic good, Empire bad. Yeah, I'm not going with that nonsense. There's a lot of good in an empire, just as there's a lot of bad in a republic. These things aren't necessarily black and white. It's very gray. And of course, we've got the city-state of Hyperion, which I'm thinking of changing the name of to something more Hittite sounding. Tilla, possibly. And it's actually Troy, and this it's basically Troy. It's and the city states are part of the Cambyses Empire, so the king of Hyperion is a subject of the Shah of the Cambyses Empire, the King of Kings. Because that's basically what a satrap was. A satrap was basically a king, a satrapy a kingdom, and yeah, that's basically what the Achaemenid Empire was made up of. And let me tell you something, the Achaemenid Empire, wonderful multicultural thing. the wonderful multicultural policy on the condition that you recognized the Shah and, of course, paid taxes. But still, it was multicultural, even if to an extent. Not sure where Alex went. Due to me trying to keep my protagonists of a specific background, Irish, obviously, because take a while guess what my background is. I really made use of the immigrant thing. Ramses the Great, obviously not Cretan, was his family was actually descended from immigrants. That's the current scholarly consensus, and his family actually originated around Avaris, the old Hyksos capital, which itself had a large Asiatic community, so taking things like the red hair and fair skin into account, it's pretty obvious that Ramses was Asiatic in origin. Him and his family. So, Falco, the protagonist, his family actually comes from the Ireland equivalent in Aether's world. And I know the Latin name doesn't say a lot, but I have been using Latin names for many characters. You've got his father Tigris, who was born under the sign of the tiger. Falco, it's actually a reference to how Alexander the Great was considered the son of Zeus, and in Egypt, Zeus's equivalent was Amun-Ra. So obviously you get to Ra, the falcon god. So the equivalent the equivalent to Zeus, Amun-Ra, Jupiter is the storm falcon in the Aether tetralogy. So some people believe Falco to be the son of a storm falcon, so obviously that led to his name being Falco. I mean, it was pretty much just the priesthood of the storm falcon claiming that his parents thought Falco was a good name, so they went with it. The main villain of the story of the tetralogy is Taurus Minor, High Priest of the Earth Ball, a combination of Poseidon, the Minotaur, Apis, and I might add a bit of the Hittite god Tilla in also, because Tilla was also a bone god, so it just makes sense. And then with the royal family of Hyperion, you have Leo, the king. Take a wild guess what sign he was born under. You have his son Pardus. Again, take a wild guess. And then you have his younger son, Asenonix. Again, take a wild guess. If you haven't guessed, lion, leopard, cheetah. Asenonix, he's pretty much the Paris of Troy in this case. Rowena, I mean, she's the female lead. For the second story, she and Falco are married. So, Aether also ends up being Sparta, in a sense. Rowena is Helen, Falco is Menelaus, and you have Asenonix as Paris. And I do not go in for that villainizing Menelaus thing. Paris was the villain, damn it. I will not romanticize the abductor. Let's look at the versions here of the story. Carried by force, had made her look like... okay, let's try that again. Carried off Helen by force, made her look like her actual husband by Aphrodite, thus causing her to be led away by someone she thought was her actual husband, only for the spell to eventually wear off and, well, yeah, bed trick basically. So we have abduction and rape. Yeah, I have a lot of reasons not to like Paris. And then you have the one version where it does say she went with him willingly. The one version, and amusingly enough, as it turns out, there's a version of the story where Paris uses that as a lie after he already used the fact that he won her hand in marriage lie, and so there you go. Even in continuity, it's basically just Paris lying. The versions were brought together and it was established that Paris basically just lied. Helen, on a technicality, went with him of her own free will, but that's because Aphrodite made him look like her true husband, her true love, Menelaus. Yeah, I don't like this. I can't even call it Hollywood. It's been going on since before movies. Yeah. So anyway, if I were to do a proper retell, I don't know, like. forget it. Let's. Yeah, I wouldn't make Menelaus a villain. I wouldn't make Paris a hero. Let's just put it at that. What else can I talk about? Due to having been scammed a few years back and still working on it, I should probably, I don't know, get a support me thing going on to help me pay that off because I'm still doing it. Finding a job is hard. Not really any library jobs available near me, or bookstore jobs. It's just so weird that no group birthday at my maternal grandparents' house. Nana died last year, or Grandpa died this year, so did my uncle. So no meeting together or anything like that, and I'm worried that my maternal family's just gonna drift apart. When are we next gonna see each other? I mean, with talking about the STEM thing and now this, I'm kind of getting depressing. I shouldn't get depressing on my birthday, but yeah, things aren't all peaches and cream or whatever the phrase is. Maybe for the last few minutes talk about my writing some more. Ahab, which is a rewrite of Ramu Rodaman the Exalted. I'm not sure, I'm thinking of starting over because I'm not feeling the horror genre, I'm not feeling the sword and sorcery genre. There's no environmental issues going on, environmental connection going on. And for something that's supposed to pay homage to Namor and Aquaman, I really need to do some more work on that bit. It's definitely keeping the 1960s setting because I like that setting from the story. I don't know, there's a lot of things, and honestly, I'm just happy to be able to do a birthday recording. And to go on adventures. Oh wow, look at this place. Okay, Len. Well, that's all for today, everyone. The new season of Vox Adventures will be coming soon. In the meantime, I'm Brian Croydragon signing out. Stay straight.